Hello and welcome to the Brother Slim. This is Cam, and oh my goodness, the Normandy campaign's all done. That's pretty crazy. Today, I think this is the normal scheduled update rather than just a random shipping one. We have a new Aeon Trespass update, not just Odyssey, but 12 Sins of Heracles goodies. So, I haven't gone through and read it because I figured this would be a fun one to do as like a live read, and I get extra excited for it. So let's jump right in. Also, at long last, the cold that's been growing within me is finally almost all gone, and my voice is almost back to normal, but not quite yet. Okay, so update number 64, Odyssey's End at Journey's Beginning. Fulfillment update, Black Friday shipping, voiceovers, pledge manager changes, Kingdom Forlorn's production, and Normandy's Kickstarter campaign success, and Sins of Heracles blowout. What an update. Title. Okay, hello guys and gals. The dust has still to settle after the successful blast-off of our new science fiction dungeon crawler in Normandy. And yet here I am with another Aeon Trespass Odyssey and Sins of Heracles update. Possibly the largest in the last few months. Which is saying something. They've got big updates in general. I guess the shipping ones are usually a little bit shorter than their production ones. So, let's start with another summary of fulfillment progress, now in its very tail end. There is no maze. Favorite battle art from Cycle 1. I definitely agree. We did this fight a few weeks ago, and it was a blast. Really cool. Okay, so Michael's fulfillment and support update. Hell yeah, Michael. You a boss. Big fan of you, man, in that support team. Their support's like really come a long ways, and I believe it's largely, in fact, in part due to him. Okay, so US, last week, Rich informed us about the last stretch towards finalization of the fulfillment. Today, confirmation from them that the remaining orders that required non-conventional packaging solutions are leaving the warehouse, marking the end of fulfillment from the hub. Thank you so much for your patience and your trust. Good stuff. And still be working on customer support stuff. Okay, EU and rest of the world, which includes Canada. Those of you keeping tabs on our comment section might have already noticed that we've been working on a problem with customs that affected some of our Canadian backers. After a few all-nighters, a bunch of manually transcribed invoice sheets, and a lot of phone calls, the situation was resolved and last orders are just leaving Packman's warehouse. Thank you for being part of this journey. As in the case with the US, we'll be doubling down on solving pending customer support issues, after which we'll continue shipping orders that were placed in the reopened pledge manager. So one thing I'll add there, just from following the comments thread on that, because it was a scary one for Canadians, is that if you did have to pay any extra brokerage fees for your expensive game, get in touch with ITU and they might be able to figure something out to reimburse you there or something like that. I don't know the details, but if you did pay, you weren't supposed to, and you shouldn't have had to begin with, but it happened. So get in touch with them and see what they can do about it. I know when all that stuff was going on in the comments, I got my shipping notice afterwards, and when I got it, there wasn't anything owing. So who knows, maybe we'll have a surprise fee when it's supposed to show up on Friday, but it doesn't seem so as of now. So I think that should be all resolved. Okay, and Asia, so Japan delivered, China delivered, Philippines delivered, Singapore delivered, a bunch of places delivered, and more in, what's that mean? Inconsolidate. I'm pretty sure this isn't what it means, but inconsolidate just sounds like inconsolable to me, which doesn't sound good, but that's not what it is. So Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Vietnam are still awaiting packages, so that's the way of things. Thank you, Michael, and the unsung heroes of support. Fulfillment coordination and support is a complex, sometimes thankless job. Yeah, as people usually take notice only in small sliver of cases that don't go the way they're supposed to, while the rest of the enormous task of shipping a game this size around the world remains in the shadows. Speaking of size, yep, fully agree with that. Support can very much be a thankless job, and it just feels like you're getting beat up by everyone and buried in emails too. So big respect to the support team. Especially since, again, I do think they've come a long way since like a year ago. Okay, how it started, early Hecatonc sketches in 2018. So you can kind of see at one point it was more Minotaur-like, which is very fitting with Cycle 1. And then this is clearly a sketch of what ended up being the finalized version. I love seeing the creative process behind stuff. Celebrating ATO, the limited cycles, and a call to action. As fulfillment begins to wind down, more and more people are reporting their impressions of the new cycle, and I know of at least 2 people who've completed the whole Odyssey. Kudos to you, it's a big game. Classic Marson Wikibase. So far, the responses to the expansion has been great. Backers are slowly realizing what it took almost 2 years to knock out what it is. For all intents and purposes, ATO 2, with more story, primordials, titans, gear, technology, secrets per cycle than even the largest of the core game. Story-wise, word for word, cycles 4 and 5 are as big as cycles 1 to 3. Wild. For me, this is an end of a particular journey. The Skyward Odyssey code is notwithstanding, and will have a more personal story to share in the year's summary update. Great Wind Farms of Babylon, 2018. Not AI. I really like that though. It kind of reminds me of Michael Francina's from Trench Crusade. Just kind of his art style of like that kind of dark, but also very shiny, and what glitters is very nice. Okay, Aeon Trespass Odyssey has been a nigh impossible undertaking. 10 years in the making, 2 giant boxes, 25 plus kilograms, 3,500 cards, 5 unique campaigns, 1 million words of story, 600 plus hours of unique gameplay. It's 8 years of active development, pre-production, and production, starting with a handful of people building double and triple duties to around 30 employees. As of June, it's now 40. 40? That's creeping up on the same size as the company I work for. That's pretty cool. Not to mention the dozens of talented artists, illustrators, and 3D sculptors. So part of the team, but my assumption there is more like contract work rather than it being like in-office employees would be my guess. Lifetimes of hard work, passion, and love. I achieved what I set out to do, an uncompromised adventure campaign experience for a mature audience, constantly fascinating, ever evolving. The original pledge for 5 cycles was $2.99. The total cost of production and development per game and expansion copy is much more. Illustrations, miniatures, design work, molding, production, testing, we spared no expense to make this an exceptional game. The molding was probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I would not be surprised if illustrations was maybe up around there too. I don't know. I think the Polish dollar compared to US, and I'm Canadian, but I use the US as a benchmark for the industry because so many campaigns are in USD. There's probably like an exorbitant amount too, and rightfully so. The illustrations are all beautiful, and there's so many of them, from individual card art to all the campaign books and everything in between. Okay, games like ATO are exceptionally rare. They take years to develop and demand extreme dedication, and the cost of producing them are exorbitant. Rare case not to use the enormous fun there. Few want to do so much work for relatively lesser gains, but we do. Yeah, so good comparison, and I don't know the gist of this because I'm not on the inside of the TTRPG industry, but comparing those kind of campaigns to campaigns like this, so Enormity as an example, big box game with 2 separate base pledges, and then 6 or 8 expansion boxes, raised 1.1 million. Compare that to like a 5e D&D campaign. It depends on the campaign, but where the bulk of it is going to be books. And then, to be fair, a lot of them do get blinged out with all kinds of extras and miniatures and all kinds of different stuff too. But like, still, the scope of the box size of ITU games versus like the general scope of RPG games and the weight difference is pretty big. So like the profit margins, huge difference in my rough guess at least. But yeah, interesting comparison. But we do it. And we'd like to continue with Kingdoms Forlorn, Sins of Heracles, Enormity, and Beyond. Which brings me to the call to action. If you like Aeon Trespass, Odyssey, and the expansions, and would like to see more projects like it, if you like what we're doing and want to make sure we keep doing it, please spread the word about the game. Leave comments, write reviews, recommend the game to your friends. We don't have a multi-million marketing machine. We depend on word of mouth and goodwill, so every positive opinion and comment helps. Yeah, I like that. One thing I think ITU could do to create a little bit more favor themselves is they're really good in their updates and how they communicate with their backers, and with feedback during campaigns and such too. But I feel like they're not excellent at making friends in the industry, if that makes sense. Like some of their games, specifically Aeon Trespass and such, and 12 Sins, kind of seem to poke fun at being better than Kingdom Death. And like, that's just kind of an odd vibe, if you ask me. And then also like, there's been some drama with them in different reviews and such. And just like the handling of it is interesting. Like they're standing up for their stuff, and a lot of people, myself included, thinks that their products are like unparalleled, phenomenal. But other people can have opinions too, you know. So yeah, it's just interesting. A little bit more grace in how they receive criticism sometimes. But to be fair, I don't agree with all of that criticism either. So there is something to be said for standing up for yourself too. Oh, I don't think I've actually seen any art of Helios before. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed. We did it, guys and gals. Also, just kind of interesting too, because they have a lot of success, but in a very niche market. And I'm trying to compare it to Trench Crusade, where like grassroots can be such a huge deal, but it's really hard to really like explode with grassroots, where Trench Crusade did, and I'd say ITU hasn't, but I think it's because it's a more niche market. Trench Crusade being a kit basher's dream of a tabletop skirmish war game, and then this being a niche, very technical, dense boss battler narrative game. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a more niche audience, and that's just a one comparison. Okay. Black Friday shipping. Thank you for your business on Black Friday with Blackbeak Pursuer and question mark Titan leading the charge. This was the largest scale sale we had to date. Again, thank you. The summer sale. Since the summer sale, we've revamped our procedures and the store pipeline, and as a result, we're already at 75% shipped orders, kept only by our molders' molding capacity. This is the thing that I gotta commend IT on big time. Is generally speaking, and I think this is pretty much always the case, they're really good at learning from any missteps and improving upon it. So shipping from the summer updates, store update was pretty slow to get rolled out entirely, and this is much quicker, which is good. That even, like I mentioned it for the enormity campaign, just some things that they'd improved upon for previous ones and such. I still think there's some things that they could work upon to really perfect how they run campaigns. But it was a great campaign, and I thoroughly enjoyed being a part of it. Okay, should have everything sent out by December 23rd. So this is just an estimate, as each miniature and order are quality checked before shipping, which if a batch of a particular mini part is not per standards, may mean an additional days of molding. So I think we saw in a picture from their office, it looked like a station where people were hand packing all of the boxes with all of the gear. So just an example of their packing kind of story there. It's all like people in the office are doing the packing. By the way, I love the new resin miniatures. Blackbeak is something I've wanted to do ever since I created the Hermesian Pursuer in 27-28. 2017, 2018. While the Spartan Dreamwalkers fill up our roster nightly with imaginative sculpts, new gear, and impressive detail. The Blackbeak is freaking sweet. If I had the budget and the space, that would have been the one that I got for sure. Especially, like, not only is it a really cool sculpt, kind of reminds me of like Hermesian Pursuer meets Conan the Barbarian, just with the pose and all the siren shells and such. But the different gear and cars that it comes with are really cool too. So changing up the encounter in hopefully meaningful ways is awesome. This is Sparta, indeed. But yep, and new replaces for Dreamwalkers is really cool too. Big fan of that. Narration app, Cycle 1, 4, and 5 are out. 2 is in certification. So me and the lads will be jumping into Cycle 2 in a couple of weeks. Maybe a couple of months, depending on how our Kingdom Death little journey goes. But might try and speed it along with like a weekend session or something, where we can stay up a little bit longer. I'm really excited. We had a lot of fun. Spoiler, we started playing Kingdom Death last night at the time of this recording, and we had a great time. But with so much ATO, looking forward to diving back into it. There's so much stuff to get into, and the end of Cycle 1 was a blast. Okay, so Narration app has been available for some time now, both through GameFound's Pledge Manager and our online store. Whether you're looking to enhance your gaming experience with core game narration or dive deeper with our expansions, our app's got you covered. The narration is killer. I've gone through and listened to just a bunch of different snippets from Cycle 1. Stuff that like me and the guys have read through, and yeah, it's fantastic. Just as the paragraph header mentioned, Cycles 1, 4, and 5 are already available, and Cycle 2, with a great next-gen performance by Pro ZD, has been sent to certification and should arrive in the cloud before Christmas Eve. This leaves Cycle 3, which is scheduled to drop in mid-January. So awesome. Herculean amount of work on this app, the narration piece of it, and the app in general, it's continuously being updated too. But the narration, chef's kiss, it's beautiful. Remember, the Narration app took over a year to develop, record, and master, and the cost of making it a reality with multiple voice actors, multiple narrators, and a unique soundtrack and sound effect track for each cycle was as staggering as the final product, and the whole of ATO is grand. 116 hours of narration. Basically, we are selling it at a loss. To remedy that, starting January, to coincide with the yearly price adjustments, each cycle's narration will be sold separately. This means you'll have the flexibility to purchase only the narrations you're interested in, without committing to a bundle. However, the overall price of the narration app for the whole game will increase as a result. I think that's super fair. It's been a really good price. You know what? I might actually just go ahead and buy Cycles 4 and 5 then too. Oh, awesome. So these are, like I said, I love seeing, also this video is going to be huge. These sketches too. So I think this is the one that ultimately ended up being the final art piece. There's some different examples here. And looks like same gear or different gear? Maybe, oh no, same gear, just from different angles. Oh, cool, so same scene, just different angles. Very cool. First battle arts, Luis Lasajido, 2019. Again, I like that they're including who the artist was. And as far as like a sketch goes, this is stunning. Kingdoms Forlorn in production. That's right, final files are being sent tomorrow morning. Mission to deliver Kingdoms of Lorne to the factory in December 2024 ends in more than just a few all-nighters and success, and what a success it is. I've allowed the KF team the freedom of design as well as the freedom to express their progress through KF updates. And what did they do? They were modest. I'm not having any of that anymore. Kingdoms of Lorne is our biggest and most varied game to date. It's 135% of ATO core game with more of everything. The 10,000 Succulent Fears expansion is shipping alongside it in Wave 1. Together, this wave has more bosses than ATO's core and the expansions combined. We're delivering a much bigger game in less time than it took to deliver the ATO core. This is a tremendous effort and a huge success for the team. There will be time to thank everybody for their hard work, but I'm going to start now. Good job, team. I'm very proud of you. Hell frickin' yeah, I really like that. And you know what? I think it's spot on. Like, the KF updates are good. They miss some of Marston's kind of whimsical writing charm, where he's just so magical and just like all the questions that he asked. But they've been really good, and so I think that this is such a well-deserved little shout out for them, because there is a huge amount of content there, as you just read there. Then even just seeing like how polished, how crisp it all looks, and all the different mechanics that they've been working on, really cool. Again, that's a game I wish I had the time and money to both afford and play, but not in the cards now. And I'm not telling you all this just to brag. There's a new rulebook available for download for those curious, and the TTS demo, whose content size belittles some of our competition. If you're undecided on KF, give it a spin. The rulebook looks beautiful too. Like again, everything in IT campaigns is very much prototype. It looks good, and it just gets better and better. So that's a big thing with their campaigns. There we are, some of the arts. I freaking love this dude. Swole book nerd. I'm here for it. Saying Udies commands you to see the demo. I want to play the demo, but I think I'm going to work through the enormity one first, because I still have a lot to go through there. And I don't know when I would jump into it, because I'd have to read all the rules, and I want to dive into the next solo Kingdom Death campaign. So we shall see about that. Enormity is here. I think I'm just going to skip past this because we've been covering all of those. And finally, 12 Sins of Heracles. Yes, finally. We'll talk about Sins of Heracles. That I will. Oh, you know what? One more thing. So, just going back to this piece about Kingdoms of Lorne in production, there was a fair amount of people in the comments that were vocal about really wishing that this had happened before the Enormity campaign started. And so I'm sure ITU's got their reasons. I know I was kind of surprised at how early the campaign started. My assumption was like, I was kind of guessing February personally, but that was just based off my own speculation. And so I don't know if the cycles 4 and 5 and the ATO stuff in general was more further along delivered. All those issues with Canadians and like the Finland partner, Pacman's gotten a whole lot of flack from backers. Had been sorted through, and then the note about Kingdoms of Lorne being in production, and then they launched the game. I think it would have had a better reception, but at the end of the day, I don't know how much that would have actually affected their funding, because they had a great campaign and finished at 1.1 million, which is like pretty much the exact same as Kingdoms of Lorne, and Kingdoms of Lorne is a more popular genre, being fantasy. So yeah, I don't know. Like I see those comments and I get it, but I think the results of the Enormity campaign speak for themselves. If it would have been higher, that would have been interesting. But that's a question that we'll never know for now. Okay, and also 12 Sins of Heracles, a lot of people were asking about, like, this is the 12 Sins of Heracles campaign, why isn't there no updates? Which is valid, but I definitely agree with Marston's comment about, like, we're sending you out a whole bunch of new exciting stuff. We don't want to dampen that excitement by saying, don't forget about the extra stuff that you maybe haven't purchased yet, and you should look into purchasing it now, kind of thing. So I get it, like, flow through that delivery hype, deliver all the new exciting cool stuff, and then start showing development for the new thing. So I think they pushed this update forward a little bit because of all those people that were getting a little upset in the comments, and I get it. Like, 12 Sins of Heracles we haven't gotten that much of, but it's not like we've gotten nothing either. I could be the oddball out though, because literally part of my job is going through crowdfunding stuff, so I follow as many updates as I can, especially for my favorite company. So I get it. Okay, so with fulfillment of the latest wave of ATO unwinding down, and with the new cycles making a splash, I can now speak freely about Sins of Heracles without worrying I'll be stealing any project's thunder. There we go. It's coming along splendidly. There's something to be said about the joy of putting forth an extremely ambitious plan, then reforging it into an actual realistic blueprint, and then, finally, making it all work by finding creative solutions for the problems I've introduced myself with those ambitious plans and working out the kinks. First of all, Sins of Heracles is not just more ATO. Just like people are now waking up to the fact that KF is a completely different game, save for the combat mechanics, so too will Sins of Heracles stand on its own. The ICP has evolved. We've introduced new battle mechanics, new character progression, a new economic model, those carcass dolls, which I'm quite stoked for, a new way to experience the stories, and a whole freaking new journey phase. That's interesting. This art we've seen a whole bunch, but it is stunning. Once again, I just love that kind of like muted but very vibrant gold. Ultimate Journey. Yes, I talked about it not so long ago, but I need to talk about a game. I know you may look at the art, see 70 by 70 millimeter square map tiles, and think it's just more or less the same. No, it isn't. With the changes to the timeline, no more running out of time through map card movement, winky face, desync, but rather interconnected primordial gear and character progressions with smaller but denser maps and shorter but more numerous campaigns. Oh, I like that. Shorter campaigns, that's, you know what, I think that's a good thing all in all. And the new mechanics turn the old Voyage on its head. Some people weren't keen on the Voyage, found it kind of dull. Me and the boys have thoroughly enjoyed it. It's fun cruising the map, exploring and reading adventures and such. When you hit like 3 or 4 titles in a row that don't have much going on, like, yeah, that's not that exciting, but you can also get through them really quick too. So doing a game where the journey is as exciting as the destination was always one of my ambitions. ATO was an attempt number 1. KF's Delving, which I hear people are coming around to, was the second. And interesting phrasing. And Sins of Heracles will benefit from the lessons of both. Can't wait to show you the new campaigns. Yep, that sounds really cool to me. The Delves and Kingdoms Forlorn seem like they've evolved quite a bit since the original. At first it was going to be kind of like procedural generation, and then they decided, you know what, like we can tell a much better cohesive story if it's all plotted out, which kind of reminds me is almost like a precursor to a Normandy, where there is the big huge map and you explore it as you go kind of thing. So just an example of ITU like always iterating and trying to make things as good as possibly can be. So Sins of Heracles will benefit from the lessons of both. Can't stream new campaigns. I think I just read that. And winning Spotlight, Revenant of Geryon. I didn't think we would get a spotlight on this guy. He was my first pick because there's a lot of mystery and it sounds like it's going to be an interesting, challenging fight from the fall cycle season. I think the box is called. And on the original campaign, it explicitly doesn't really go into details on him because they didn't want to share spoilers. So I voted for him, but I was like, I don't think it's going to be the option, so I voted for the Talos thing instead. But here we go, sweet. Today's update is not about that. It's about an autumn primordial. One of you yourselves is marked for a spotlight, and the winner is Revenant of Geryon, that poor, angry soul that wants to gut you for killing his dog, and for sins older than time. Interesting. Okay, so the Revenant of Geryon is our second adversary in Sins of Heracles, following closely behind Orthros, his loyal swordsman hound. It's like a 3-headed, 6 or 8-legged wolf. Pretty cool. Geryon will arrive as soon as you deal with the old months, but unlike ATO Core and more in line with ATO expansions, there is also another game trigger that will force you to make the adversary switch. So don't put off your final confrontation with the 2-headed dog, unless of course you value your life. Then put it off indefinitely, because Orthros is a master swordsman who knows how to combo his attacks. So it is an example of Marcin likes to bold game mechanics, and so combo is, I've just read about it recently, haven't played with it yet though, it's a boss ability from Cycle 2. This is I think a better looking version of this sculpt than we've seen. Again, I think the sculpts in Normandy were a huge improvement from those in this campaign. The sculpts on the main campaign page in the updates just looked kind of flat and didn't show too much detail. I think it's just like the contrast was a little low or something, and maybe they're just trying to have like a better idea or showcase it more truly as to what it would look like in plastic. But like it just made it look really flat, and you couldn't really see any of the details that would be in the final product anyway. So I don't know. Okay, if you're an eagle-eyed backer, and we have a few of those, you may have already caught this last year. Geryon himself was not one of Heracles' labors. It was the cattle of Geryon. Yet we've got Geryon instead, and some cattle of the Mordrai in the winter season. What gives? The usual Aeon Trespass shenanigans, reworking, expanding, and subverting myths. So the new storyline is as riveting as ever. Totally agree without getting into spoilers. Cycle 1 plays with some very tried and true Greek mythology, but throws some things on its head in really, really fun ways. And like legitimately surprising ways too. It was great. Yeah, so creepy big old noggin, temple up there, and a hand on the back, which I hadn't seen before. Cool. So how does Geryon work without spoiling these stories? Geryon is a heavy bruiser type of primordial. Most of its attacks are melee, though launched from powerful leaps. Remember that Nietzsche attack where he landed right on top of you? Geryon is very much into those. However, due to his size and the immense weight he carries on his shoulders, and a whole temple to boot, when he lands with a thump. Mechanically, this means that whenever Garyon finishes a landing, all Titans beside the target in Zone 2 suffer crash and knockback 10. Yes, it hurts, don't huddle up. So Zone 2 would be 2 hexes away from the base size of this beastie. And crash, you fall down and take a damage or a danger, and knockback 10, get knockback 10 spaces. You may have also noticed Garyon's rather disturbing underbelly, meat hook, and Titan carcasses. If you're not quick enough, you'll end up on one of those. There are 4 VP spaces there for your Titans, and each Titan caught on a meat hook, besides the obvious suffering, empowers Garyon, who begins to brand you with increasingly more deadly conditions, including muffled/sealed. So those are new, as far as I'm aware, mechanics. Yes, his connection to the Moirai grants Garyon some power over destiny, including the Death by Fate trait, which makes gaining Fate hurt as much as gaining danger. Finally, Garyon has another set of VPs for the temple on his back. Yes, it's our first 8 VP primordial, and you want to get into that temple, transforming from a Titan into a mortal during the battle. Because, surprise, Garyon has an additional wound stack mechanic, somewhat reminiscent of one from the Chimera, making him that much harder to kill. 20 wounds, everybody, anyone. That is wild. Okay, so what is this? A judgment and a sequential attack. So I'm assuming this is an AI 3, and this is probably also an AI 3. So Moirai connection, 2 dice, 9+ to dodge, hardest danger in front, highest danger in sight, wisdom or fury, raise your danger to 9 and draw a Kratos card, brand, which you don't know what that does. And then after attack, all Titans in Zone 3 around you gain Frenzy condition. So I think Frenzy might be a new one too. Slaughter, once again, love all of the art. The art's just too much fun. Closest target in front, or closest Titan in sight. This is 3 dice, 10+ to dodge, so have fun with that. If the attack hits, it deals 6 danger and 3 fate. Ouch, taking straight fate, that's brutal. If the target is skewered, repeat the attack. Garyon turns to face the most Titans, all Titans on VPs, those are probably the meat hook ones, suffer brand. So I'm assuming, fingers crossed, that is like one of the most violent cards, like the especially extra bad one, because that sounds diabolically evil. 6 danger from 1 attack, when the attack itself is rolling 3 dice, and 3 fate. Oh my god. Also, it's a land on top thing too, so... terrifying. Okay, Chained Titan. So this will be a BP3 body part. You may voluntarily end the attack before performing a power roll. If you do, clear the Kratos pool. A random Titan. If you fail, a random Titan draws an O-ball. Fun. If you wound, you may move a Titan from the SP instead of VP in this case, I guess, onto a space adjacent to Garyon. If you crit until the end of the battle, disable 1 empty SP, place a generic token on that as a reminder. Cool. Branding Iron. So 9, instinct with brand. Can't reads the critical text. Disable brand keyword. Gain the Searing brand gear card. Cool. What's the catch? The catch is the mechanic that governs climbing to the temple or getting off the meat hooks. It's connected and uses a brand new Grave Trauma deck. How are the ominous symbols in the lower corner? Now, with ominous symbols in the lower corner, okay, to climb up to the temple or down from the hook, you need to draw some cards and resolve them. These give you all sorts of penalties, like more fate, but in certain combinations can also trigger out-of-round attacks or the death condition. So, what's the catch again? The catch is, the more Titans on the hooks, the less cards you will draw, while the more Titans in the temples, the more cards you have to draw. It's perverse! And I haven't gotten to the small primordial and temple terrain use of the battle scenario. All those temples are connected, but through some other place. Some other place. Interesting. Oh, yeah, cool. I like that. A little bonus spotlight here, too. So, some other place. That sounds like it might be some sort of, like, temple demiplane is my guess. We do know that Heracles kind of ascended, and Horrific is in his own demiplane, too. So, something like that. Kind of like Throne Worlds would be my guess. Cool. So, temple terrain use and small primordial, we're not getting any words of, but hey, cool little spotlight on Garyon. And then bonus spotlights, Cernian Talos. Surprise! It was a close contest last time, so the King Solomon that I am decided to do both spotlights, one for Garyon and another for the Cernian Talos. And let me tell you, the Cernian Talos is something special. Another one of the classic out-of-left-field unique fights, like the Sun Descendant, Dahaka, or Earthlease. The original Taloi, purportedly built in the image of the extinct centaurs of Cernea, were a great offense for the Olympians, for again, reportedly, they were even faster than the Divine Hinds. Interesting. They are faster still now, though somehow corrupted by both nature and pollution, and they are taking children, running off with them into the darkest corners of the old Pseudo-Genoi woods. Extinct centaur people. So we've seen this art before. It was teased as like things to come, so my assumption is it'll be Sins of Heracles based. You will follow to whichever dark place they may lead. The Cernaean Talos is a unique battle because it's a race through the woods, with the Talos moving away from you with each wound dealt, and with each performed attack. The woods itself is such a clever design, taking advantage of the higher terrain tile count of Sins of Heracles. A simple diagram is worth 1,000 words. Okay, so I wonder if like we literally chase it along the same space, or how that's going to function. Interesting though. The woods is a labyrinth of impassable tiles, which forms a winding road that both the Talos and the Titans have to navigate. Some rare tiles do allow the Talos to pass, but not the Titans, while others have shortcuts for Titans, through which the Talos will not squeeze through. The woods unveil themselves over time with 4 small decks. The 5th is already deployed. That's cool. So it kind of reminds me, it's obviously its own thing, but kind of reminds me of the Screaming God expansion coming out of Kingdom Death, where like the battlefield is constantly shifting as you're trying to also kill, but catch up to the foe. I don't know if they've changed the sculpt at all. I'm not huge on this sculpt. That artwork is fantastic, but boing! For this creature, like, so seeing the more detail on it looks cool. I like that. It looks better than it did during the main campaign. But the sculpt just looks really, really static and just kind of like a statue. And if the whole fight is all about movement, it just feels like this is a missed opportunity for the sculpt to be more dynamic and kind of really capture that vibe of the chase and hunting this thing down. So yeah, I don't know. I would love for them to revise the sculpt and make it more like in motion, but I don't know if they're going to at this point. We'll see. But the game's a ways off, so we shall see. I'll probably add a comment about that. Everything else looks sweet though. The Titans have additional gear and abilities to cut through the thicket, in a reverse of our classic fist for a fist trait. After each 3 wounds dealt, the Talos can be redirected to a lower tree corridor tier, but the Talos has its own tricks up its sleeve. Its ranged attacks, besides dishing out Ambrosia, can knock down Titans, knock them back, or even knock them to a lower tree count, or a tree corridor. The woods do not like to be disturbed, though, and their configuration can change during the battle, parting for the Talos while closing up for the Titans, making them look for alternate routes to the automaton. Wear some Hermes gear when you need it. Some more art, so it can spray ambrosia at you. Lovely. It can stand up and schmack ya. Ooh, largest Talos. So that's some pretty sweet art of this big stone Gribbly. This might be art from a Carcass Stealth, maybe. Surprise spotlight! Doom of Pythagoras. Pythagoras implying possession there once again too. Swedish showing this too. So Markson had commented that he was really keen on doing a spotlight on this, but it didn't get any votes, so he decided to do it anyways, I guess. Yes, let's make it a hat trick, mostly because I'm dying to talk about the Doom of Pythagoras. There we go. I flashed some of its cards in one of the previous updates, but I did not go into detail on what makes the battle special. And a very special battle it is indeed. Think of it this way: the more niche the content, the more involved and intricate the design can be. Doom of Pythagoras is a smaller expansion meant for players looking for a new challenge and some juicy lore. The Doom delivers on both counts. The creature you called the Doom of Pythagoras was a prophet from the Conundrum an aeon ago. The Conundrum, of course, was a previous iteration of the Labyrinth that would have consumed Crete, if not for the valiant efforts of the Argonauts. Interesting. The Conundrum was the previous iteration of the Labyrinth that would have consumed Crete if not for the valiant actions of the Argonaut. So that's kind of interesting. I know the timeline of Sins of Heracles is before, during, and after the base game of Aeon Trespass. So my assumption is there's some sort of thing that comes back then too. Interesting. So the Doom seemingly, I wonder if that's to incorporate being able to use ATO Titans in this game, maybe? I'll be curious how that lore develops. The Doom seemingly has a lot of mechanics you love to hate. It builds a labyrinth that dishes out despair tokens and the fear and dread conditions. In some ways, it's the perfect foil to Temenos. However, What it does is devilishly different. The Doom has its own deck of custom conundrum cards, 2x3 spaces, a proprietary format, which it uses to build a central structure on the map, a growing maze, not of squares, but triangles. It uses the dreaded fold and attack command, with which it teleports the target to itself to deal devastating damage. See Trigonometry of Terror below, then moves away to build even more maze between it and you. If this encounter is just extra math, that is terrifying. Conundrum card layouts. By the way, apologies for the work and pre-work. The art team said they'd have enough work with KF files today, and I shouldn't bother them. Oh my goodness, no need to apologize there. It's crude, I know, but you should get the picture. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Conundrum. Doom moves, leaving a conundrum tile in its former space. See impossible spaces. If a non-conundrum tile, Doom moves the indicated number of spaces in the indicated direction, remaining in adjacency with conundrum tiles at all times. When it arrives on a space adjacent to a tile's corner space, it moves diagonally to the next space to remain in adjacency. If Doom, so Doom is the monster in this case, I was getting kind of confused with that, is on a conundrum space, instead it moves away from the target or attacker in a straight line until it arrives at a non-conundrum space, one adjacent to a conundrum space. Straight from the design sheet. So that is just gibberish to me, but it's work in progress, obviously, and it's design work. So parse that as you will. I'm just going to keep reading, and my mind is boggled. Sometimes the Doom will move deep inside the maze, and you will have to follow. Sometimes it will send you one of its extraplanar Geol of Pythagora. Sometimes it will attack everyone connected to a conundrum, like reverse stabilizers from Cycle 1. It's like watching a spider spin its web, even bigger until it somehow cuts the board in half. At which point, ha. I think there are some encounters that do change the board size, so my assumption is that it'll do it too. I mentioned devastating damage, and I wasn't joking. The Doom is quite precise in its practices, and it will bestow its accursed teaching both on those who have heard the call of despair, as well as those who steadfastly reject it. Danger is equal to hits X despair. If you have no despair, gain X despair tokens, where X is the number of hits. Trigonometry of Terror. Interesting. The Doom of Pythagoras is such a fascinating fight because it transforms all of the usual paradigms of ATO combat. The central terrain structure, the Conundrum, has a tremendous combat presence, even stronger than the Labyrinth, especially because of all the nooks and crannies your Titan can move onto a quarter space, but not through it. Sometimes offering essential shortcuts or, wait for it, Kratos tokens and other treasure. Interesting. It's almost like a microscopic dungeon crawling experience right there, spatially folded into an ATO boss battle. Oh, and I won't spoil how the Doom influences the game beyond the battle phase, but it does, because I think the Doom cruises around on the map and has its own agenda too. Yeah, that sounds really cool. It's a little bit too mathy for me, but it sounds really cool, and it's just an example of how Marcin and the ITU crew really weave mechanics into the narrative and such too. Invisible edges, so that looks like a body part 1. Cool. Form signature, Trigonometry of Terror. The sum of your life, simultaneous judgment. Yeah, this is some pretty wild stuff there. 5 dice 9+ is pretty brutal. Oh, what? What about small primordials? What about them? They're doing fine and bringing a lot of additional variety into the Sins of Heracles campaigns. I've actually had to restrain myself with them because between KF's mob battles and encounters and Enormity's new ICP Field Swarm gameplay, I am tempted to turn some of these into additional battles. That'd make each season have twice the battle variety of an ATO cycle. But no, bad, scope creep, bad, have to resist. I haven't seen this trick before. I mean, that'd be pretty cool. We'll see what happens there. Also, that art is Cycle 1, the maze stuff is really creepy and cool. Yeah, that art is very cool. End of the year pledge letter adjustment and increases. Traditional yearly PM adjustment and price revision is close at hand. This is your final notice. As always, it'll happen just after New Year's Eve. As with our previous PMs, Sins of Heracles is not closing. We always try to keep the pledge letter open as long as possible to avoid FOMO. There will be some end of the year price revisions. So what is changing? Both the ATO core game and expansions will see price increases. Keep them in line with inflation and the current economy. The core will increase to €299. Just so it was said earlier in the update here, but during the campaign, all 5 cycles of ATO was €299 or dollars, I can't remember. So big increases. While the expansion box, which is mightily expanded in last year's KS campaign, will go up to $259. As Sins of Heracles boxes crystallize, they will also see smaller increases, around 10 to 15, while other products may see slight corrections. Other than that, we don't anticipate major changes. Some smaller items may see a tiny bump here and there, but nothing noticeable. Thank you for your attention and consider yourselves warned. To reiterate, new prices will take effect just after New Year's. If you want to complete or modify your pledge, now is the time. You'll have around 3 weeks for that. If you want to revisit the PM, click here. Also note the same fate will befall Kingdoms Forlorn, and due to the size that project has grown into, the core is 135% bigger than ATO. Price dramatics will be dramatic, so good to note there. Also, belated big congratulations on crossing 5 million euros in the pledge manager too. That is pretty wild. Odyssey's End. It's true. Aeon Trespass Odyssey is done, finished, complete. A self-contained pentology, which still plays some of its cards close to its chest. Many secrets remain to be uncovered, including the most important one. But what was it all about? The end of the Odyssey doesn't mean the ends to Aeon Trespass. You'll have an opportunity to revisit the Argo's Voyage one last time in next year's Skyward Odyssey mini campaigns. And there is, of course, the entirety of Sins of Heracles played as their own campaigns or as excursions into your ATO cycles. And all the all-new Titans and Nemesis, like the Doom of Pythagoras, the Old Timer, and Ganymede of Acre Years. Old Timer? I don't remember what that one is, actually. Interesting. Nevertheless, the Odyssey you embarked on in 2019 has come to an end. Thank you all for enlisting the Argonauts. Your Nemoses are now solved. Become what you were meant to become. See you in the final end of year update. Time for some New Year's Eve, sometime before New Year's Eve. We're off to our Christmas party. Woohoo! I salute you all. I freaking love this picture. That's awesome. That video was, I think, much longer than I intended or expected to be, but that was a fun update to read through, chock full of literally everything that ITU does, which was some good stuff. So much love. Happy holidays to you and yours. And we'll catch you next time, probably in the new year. Bye!